Hello and welcome back for the top 10 hardest Maverick fights in Mega Man X, X2, and X3. When talking about difficulty with these bosses, I try to base everything on objective aspects that basically boil down to 4 factors. Margin for error, how much does the game ask of you in order to stay safe? The severity of punishment, aka damage taken for mistakes. Your window of opportunity to attack, because that's the only way for the fights to end. And lastly, the amount of damage done by your attacks. Of course, all of this footage is console only, so every boss encounter was earned by beating the stage first. If I died a few times on the boss and got a game over, that meant going back and beating the stage again to earn another try. There are no emulators, no save states, no passwords, no turbo controllers, and absolutely no bullshit. Just pure Maverick hunting from the soul. Number 10. Launch Octopus from X is a hard and intense fight. I think anybody that's fought him would agree with that. His projectiles are numerous, fast, and hard to avoid. When your standard shot does 1 peg of damage and his projectiles do 2, while you have half of the health of these guys, it's not an easy task to empty his life bar before he empties yours. This is another example of the developers knowing that this is a high-octane fight, so they do allow your semi-charged shots to take away 2 pegs of his health, along with a fully charged shot to do 3 pegs of damage. You need to shoot fast and rapidly to keep the damage occurring though, because this fight is also an example of a strong offense leading to a strong defense, since it's the only way of destroying his projectiles that are headed your way. The fight is a fast pace of simply trying to outdo his offense and avoid what you can while using your dash to move out of his whirlpool attack. If you stay aggressive and can narrowly avoid enough of his attacks, you will be able to finish him before he finishes you. Number 9. Gravity Beetle from Mega Man X3. He's an example of how merciless a fight can be simply due to how damn strong their main attack is. These gravity orbs. The strongest attacks we've seen so far take 1/3 of your health, meaning you can't even afford to get hit 3 times. Well, this one is even worse. Being that the orbs take away 8 pegs of health, yes, half of your health, so you need to make it through the whole fight will only get hit by them once at the most. Touching the Beetle only does 2 pegs of health though, so sometimes strategically it makes sense to run into him if you're in a tight space next to the orb. The trickiest part is when he fires 2 at once and you need to be carefully positioned on the wall as one bounces and the other leaves the screen, and you'll just barely avoid getting hit. He also often uses a large gravity well attack when his health is low, which also, you guessed it, takes away half of your health if you touch this thing. It's relentless. It's an example of just a couple but pretty simple tight patterns that are punishing as hell. Definitely not a boss many people would tackle before getting any health or weapon upgrades. Number 8, Spark Mandrill from X is one of my favorite bosses in the whole series because he's so dynamic and it's another high-octane fight. When you dial in and go toe-to-toe with this beast, it genuinely feels like a savage fight to the death. He hits hard as hell. Here's an example of how quickly things can go wrong. With only 3 hits ending your life, you've got to be ready to react to his few attacks. He can rush at you with his fist, and if you're on the wall, it knocks you down into his body. He pounds out large electrical orbs that come out in the blink of an eye, and they track on the floor and the ceiling and the walls of the room. He's also the only boss that hangs and climbs from the ceiling in this way, which is pretty cool. While he's up there is actually a good time to hit him once or twice before dashing underneath him to the far wall, and then the cat and mouse dynamic of the fight continues from there. This battle to me is basically poetry in motion and everything gone right in a boss fight. You have a large, strong, fast, and aggressive enemy that does heavy damage and you feel completely outmatched. However, you get a sense of strength from your buster since a charge shot can actually stagger this beast as he rushes in. It's anxiety-provoking but exciting to feel like such a glass cannon against what truly feels like a powerful, bloodthirsty monster. Number 7, Morph Moth from X2 is another fight that's hard as hell, but I also really enjoy it because it offers some great variety and excitement. It starts out as a robotic cocoon of some sort. It can swing back and forth, throwing junk your way. It also breaks free from his string and violently spins through the trash, and another move, which I'm sure a lot of people have the most trouble with, is when it rapidly pulls trash out of the walls in a clockwise or counterclockwise fashion. And the only way to avoid this is to pull expert dash jumps and wall jumps with B and A together around the cocoon until he stops, which could be in just 1 or 2 rotations or as many as over 5. In general, you just hit him during this or when he's swinging back and forth until you do enough damage for his second form to come out, which is, you guessed it, Morph Moth. Let me tell you, this guy does some serious damage if he crashes into you. It's as bad as Gravity Beetle's orbs. It takes half of your health, just like that. His little Stardust or whatever is nothing to fuck around with either, since that also takes a large chunk. He also does what looks like a Psybeam straight from Pokemon, another hard-hitting attack. You have to stay low and dash out of his attacks, then jump quickly to get your shots in, but be warned that any preemptive jumps can result in instant doom. With enough practice on the first form and being extra careful on the second, victory will eventually be yours. Number 6, Flame Stag. The last Maverick from X2 on the list is another unique fight, as the room you fight in has a tall ceiling and the boss spends a lot of time quickly bouncing between the left and right walls. This fight is all about positioning and anticipation, but he moves fast and the learning curve is steep. Fortunately, coming in contact with him only does 2 pegs of damage to Mega Man. It's just that avoiding him really can be that challenging. While he often leaps back and forth, which hits if you jump, he has some other moves that punish you standing right in front of him too, like throwing 2 fireballs your way, or even worse when he uppercuts you to the ceiling and then power bombs your ass for big damage. It requires split-second reaction time, and flinching early results in damage, so I guess you could say fighting him is like having someone say over and over, "That's 2 for flinching." He also has an attack to punish if you were to climb up on the wall, where he jumps to the wall and bursts up the side to get you. As his health goes down, he emits a blue flame, and this seems to change the tempo slightly by making him just a bit quicker in between his attacks and the attacks themselves too. Charging your buster in between his attacks is essential to taking away enough of his health before he inevitably wears you down with his quickness and sporadic attack patterns. Number 5, Crush Crawfish from X3. This guy is a pretty big pain in the ass right here. He is constantly putting pressure on you with his presence and his claws that he shoots out, both dealing 4 pegs of damage, 1/4 of your health. He has some of the most strange and annoying projectiles that never disappear until you touch them. They briefly immobilize you until you mash out, and then you stay on the damn wall you need for safety. Basically, you can't stay on the ground because he will rush you or shoot his claw out, but then you can't get on the wall either due to his damn projectiles that never go away. The only thing you can do is to purposely jump into and mash out of these things when he's not standing directly below you, while holding your charge shot and make your wall jump, fire, and continue from there. When he gets low on health, he starts to incorporate a powerful and fast backslide. You can see here that I stood my ground once I knew the fight was over, and here he comes to do 6 pegs of damage. That's nearly half of your life bar. The only way to make it through this fight is with tight control and a complete comfortability holding A, B, and Y all at once, so you can make huge jumps while keeping that charge shot. Number 4, Armored Armadillo from X. While Armored Armadillo is not who comes to mind when I think of the hardest Maverick fights, everything changes when you fight him with the Buster. They did not want you to waltz in here with base stats and come out as a victor, that's for sure. You know how I know that? Well, look at how much damage your full charge shot does. Yeah, a full blast shot to the face, 1 measly little peg of damage. What an absolute tank. We're not even done talking about his defense. This is what happens to about 80% of your shots. They just dink right off of his armor. How about your charge shots if he's ready for it? Wow, yeah, let's not do that again. How about his shots? Oh, what? 4 pegs of damage? Well, that's just awesome. Oh yeah, and he rolls up, crashing around for basically as long as he feels like it. It actually is random. You never know how long it'll be. And if he hits you, get this, it does 6 pegs of damage. The only way to defeat this guy is to legitimately land a shot on him 32 times before he shoots you just 4 times, or if he rolls into you just 3 times. Or even if he just rolls into you twice and shoots you as a finisher. So let's talk strategy. This guy is a stubborn asshole, so you also need to be stubborn back to him. You must stick next to a wall just in case he rolls up while you're trying to shoot him. Just need to pepper him with shots, but staying on a very tight rhythm with your jumps, otherwise you won't have the space or time to shoot safely. When he's crashing all over the room, keep your eye on the corner opposite from you so you have an idea when he's going to bounce your way, but then move back into the corner again so you don't get stuck in no man's land. If you break it down, it's as simple as peppering him with single shots while he is shooting at you, and then being very careful when he's bouncing around. After what feels like an eternity, you will eventually take down this stubborn turd. Number 3, Toxic Seahorse from X3. This fight, along with the next 2, even more than ever, really test your ability on all fronts. You must be able to keep your eyes on multiple moving parts, the boss, tightly control your dash on the ground, the wall, all while holding your charge shots for those brief openings. He likes to do high jumps and land where you are standing, and shoots toxic bubbles that slowly bounce back and forth, which occupy some wall and vertical space, stopping you from being able to jump around briefly, so you need to dash underneath him, but those bubbles also drip these damn little specks that hurt you. Fortunately, touching the drops or him both just do 2 pegs of damage. But these 2 things together aren't that easy to avoid, so it's likely that these things will quickly chip away at your health. But the worst part of all is when he gets mad as hell and starts throwing bouncing toxic balls that take away 4 pegs of damage. So if you get to this point with half of your health left, just 2 of these things need to touch you in order for you to die. It's absolutely insane. He also has an invincibility phase where he melts and reappears, so your window to shoot him before he goes apeshit hopping all around throwing more deadly toxic balls is very small, and it gets quite dangerous. After some practice and adapting to his habits and the timing of all of his attacks, you will finally put the Seahorse into the ground. Number 2, Blast Hornet from X3. It's another fight where your positioning means everything, and your ability to keep eyes on the boss along with several moving parts are essential. Blast Hornet is quite unique in that he never stands on the ground. He's always moving in a figure 8 type of way, but as the fight goes on, his swooping pattern gets lower and wider, so you have considerably less space to use for safety. He likes to send out a wave of bees that you want to shoot as they come your way, along with some hard-ass sting attacks that take away half of your health, meaning just 2 of these at any point are lethal. The sting attack is a bit delayed, so it can be baited and dodged in a strategical way to give yourself enough space to strike as well. You definitely want to be comfortable dashing and jumping while holding Y to charge in this fight. Once you manage to get him to half health, his loop gets harder to avoid while he does a tracking attack that locks onto Mega Man and a swarm of bees come your way. You have to dash away and turn around to shoot in order to avoid damage. If a bee sticks to you, it can do multiple stings until you release a charge shot, which is ruthless. As far as avoiding Blast Hornet goes, since you can't duck, you need a well-timed dash to get low enough to avoid his constant movement. You really have to work on your spatial awareness and be super nimble with your movement and shooting to keep out of harm's way, while avoiding big damage if you come in contact with him. It's an interesting and challenging fight that pushes your gaming skill and quick thinking to a really high level. You have to always be thinking a couple steps ahead if you're ever going to make it through a fight like this, but once you get a rhythm down between moving and shooting, you will finally take this bastard down. Number 1. We've seen some cheap and brutal Mavericks, including several that can take you out in only 3 hits, or for some, just 2. But the only one that really tops this list of the 24 is none other than the cheap, ugly son of a bitch that goes by the name Volt Catfish. This obese piece of shit right here does not go down without one hell of a fight. The reason why he's so hard is simple. He has several attacks that are incredibly hard to avoid. In the beginning, his pattern is to lunge at you in a way that can make you feel like you need to keep jumping away from him and then using A and B from the wall to jump over him. But you'll soon realize that dashing underneath him and turning around to shoot and immediately jumping over his electrical orb is the pattern you want. However, it's not that simple at all. He also likes to randomly use this Triad Thunder attack, instead where he sends out 3 electrical orbs that take up almost the entire screen on the way out and also on the way back in. When he discharges that electricity from his back, you do not want to be up there because that takes almost half of your health with 6 pegs of damage. The goal of the first half of the fight is to stay disciplined when avoiding him and also get a bit lucky with him deciding to use his Floor Lightning orb instead of Triad Thunder, since it's so hard to avoid. If you stand far away, you won't be able to dash underneath him, but if you're anywhere near him, you can't avoid his Triad Thunder and it just feels like you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. At half health is where the bullshit meter skyrockets as he hops to the middle of the screen, turns invincible, and throws sparks everywhere, dealing 2 pegs each hit. After this, he collapses into your space with 0 warning and deals 4 pegs of damage if his electrical barrier touches you. This phase just feels like, you're going to take damage now, see if you can take me out first. But it feels freaking crazy since you only get a tiny window to shoot him after each Spark Tantrum and Volt Tackle, and of course your charge shot only does 2 pegs of damage. You need to buckle the fuck down and know exactly what's going on with this fight. There's absolutely no other way. Your reaction speed to the sparks and his slide has to be spot on, otherwise you are done at this point. Something that I noticed after a while, if you pump a shit ton of shots into his barrier, it will actually break, but he will still be invincible. The only reason to bother doing this is to make avoiding him easier. Plus it cuts the touch damage in half, only doing 2 pegs of damage. Basically for this part, I found it to be kind of consistent to try to count to 7 seconds and just jump up there. There's no other visual cue or anything. Overall, Volt Catfish gives you little room for opportunity, the margin of error is slim, and for some attacks, unpredictable, making him the toughest Maverick fight between Mega Man X, X2, and X3. Thank you everybody for watching, and special thanks to those for adding to the likes, comments, and subscribers to help this channel grow. There's a lot of exciting stuff to look forward to. I recently acquired a couple of pretty important games, meaning we have another complete not-for-resale/demo set coming up soon, the 3rd on the channel. I'm thinking another in-depth demo review is in order soon. Also, a follow-up video on the acrylic wall shelves, plus an easy way to make your own console tower, along with more reviews on hard games and more episodes of It's Expensive, but Is It Good? Thanks again so much for watching. I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day, and I really hope to see you for the next episodes.